Well, hello. Let's let's start, and people will come in or they won't. I would love to, since we're a small intimate group, that we take a moment to introduce ourselves. I know our names are on our Zoom boxes, but introduce ourselves and share two things. One is thinking back to sort of last Passover, a long time ago, almost a year ago. This is the first, as we know, this is going to be sort of the first holiday that we're doing for a second time in this strange world, although it's very different this year, and sort of how we're doing it in hybrid, and what does that look like for different families and settings. But thinking about last year and what was something good that came out of last year's Passover experience, and then this year and coming here, what's a question that you have for this Passover? Would anyone like to begin?
Well, last year was new, and so we didn't have we didn't understand the technology as well, and we shared with my family in San Francisco, and I couldn't get the Haggadah to screen share. But of course, my 15-year-old granddaughter did just fine with that, so we did really well, and it was just wonderful seeing the kids and being with my family, because I'm never seeing them on Passover, right? I can't remember the last time they were here for Passover, so that was really nice. And it was relatively large. I think we had other people from the temple even come Zoom with us. But this year, I think everybody's exhausted, and we're just doing the four of us and the four of them, and not even the non-Jewish in-laws, because we don't want to have a Jewish Easter. We don't want to have a Zoom Easter either, so we're not inviting them to a Zoom Passover. So it's less tension because it's a much smaller group. And the website, the temple website, was absolutely incredible. I mean, I must have looked at 6 Haggadahs, and then just briefly, I don't want to take over this place, but where I live, there's 4 Jews. And we always have a Seder here, and the people who from the community come in and have it, and our very cute, elfish-looking activities director's name is Mary Ann Katz. But looking at her, that Katz isn't her name. That was her husband's name. She is not Jewish, but she knows the kids were raised Jewish. Anyway, I said to her, we need to find a short Haggadah, because we're actually going to be in a group of people. We just opened up, so we can have 10 people in a room, 15 people in a room, so we can have a real Seder. And I said, do you have a short Haggadah? And she emailed me back and said, my brain just went bad. What's the word that you use, the derogatory word for a non-Jewish woman?
We're not going to use.
Anyhow, she said, I'm that. She said, of course I have a short Haggadah. Anyhow, she has the Haggadah that you have on the website, the Boston one.
Yeah, that's
and it's favorite. Really nice.
Yep.
And the nicest part of it is it can be edited. Many of the other ones you can't edit. So we have edited that down to make it our family Haggadah, and I'm very excited about it.
Great.
Well, thank you for having so many Haggadahs there.
Great. Good.
I'll share. So I've always taken on the Passover Seder, and my son comes from California, and my daughter comes from wherever she's living. And last year was the first time no one came, and we did a Zoom Seder. And we had a couple of other families too. Actually, one family from the temple that's always come, and this year I'm getting my second shot next Monday, which puts me sort of not quite safe yet, nearly, but not there. And my daughter was going to come and decided not to because everyone's still afraid. So we're doing another Zoom Seder. And I did attend the Haggadah.com webinar that was just last Sunday. And they have this whole website of options. And we've used for the past few years the Jewish World Service Haggadah, which is pretty modern. And so if I want to, how much time I want to put into working on recreating, or whether we'll just use a Jewish World Service. And it's always a little awkward. How much tradition do you really keep when you're, we don't have our grandchildren who will attend are like 10 and 14. And my daughter's married to a guy who's not Jewish. And that dance of trying to keep everyone comfortable and happy, we still do. And I don't think there's any like easy answer. I want just everyone to be happy with what we're doing. And it's really different when it's on Zoom and when it's in person. Haven't seen my children in over a year, and I'll see them in April, but Passover is coming just a little too soon. So that's my story.
Thank you.
I'll go next. So last year we did a Zoom Seder with my stepdaughter and her husband and the kids from New York City, my son in Ann Arbor, Michigan with his fiance, cousins in Los Angeles. So it was New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and LA. And we were all on Zoom together. So it was terrific because, we really can't all get together, even in normal circumstances for Seders anymore. We're all so spread out. It worked really well. And we're doing the same thing again this year, except that my son in Ann Arbor, who's marrying a non-Jewish woman in September, said, "Mom, we can't join you because I'm doing a Seder here for Megan and her family, who are not Jewish." But I was thrilled about that because my son is not exactly the most observant person. And he said, "No, I'm going to do a Seder. I ordered a Seder plate, and it's going to be an abbreviated service, but we're going to do it. And I'm going to have Megan's family over." So even though I'll miss seeing him, I was very happy that he was doing that. It made me feel great. And I'm taking this seminar because, if I could call it a seminar, Rabbi, I don't know, that might be a little exaggerated, but because my stepdaughter said they would like it to go a little bit smoother than it did last year, but she didn't know how to make it easier or better. So if I could get some pointers, I'll share them with her and her husband. But he did do his own Haggadah last year, and he was able to share it, and it really went pretty well. So so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm getting just FYI, I'm getting my second shot next Friday. And then I'm going to Ann Arbor for Mother's Day. So I need to see my son. It's been over a year. And I'm going to get on a plane and cross my fingers and wear a mask. So, yeah.
Well, I can go. So we did Zoom Seder last year, and it was terrible. We did it was, so my folks live in town, but of course they were on the Zoom. And then my stepbrother, who would normally be at Seder, in town on the Zoom. My stepsister, who's in LA, came on the Zoom. And then my brother and sister-in-law, who are in Boston, 3 hours later, they logged on intentionally just to sort of say hi. But then my stepsister kind of guilted them into like, "What, you're not staying?" And so it was our first real experience with the technology. I think that Dave had a number of meetings on Zoom for a couple of weeks at that point, so he knew what was involved, but it was horrible. The inability to know that when one box is lit up, you need to be quiet until they're done, or else you're going to cut them off, which I have to say my stepmother still does not fully understand a year later. And so as we were, and it really actually, it set a tone for the whole year, because we started having Zoom Shabbats, and after about 2 months, half of my immediate family rebelled and said, like, this is horrible. Like, I actually feel worse when we have Zoom Shabbats than if we just are by ourselves. And so we had to switch to an every other week and just kind of a happy hour and not actually lighting candles and eating dinner together, because it just did not work. So this year I really struggled. I feel like if there are just 2 lines on a Zoom, so if it was just my family and my folks, the line kind of stays open, and you can sort of talk in both boxes and hear each other. But that doesn't seem to be doable, because that seems like that would then cut out, my step siblings, which I don't think is very fair. Although my dad has had both shots, Dana will have had both shots, but pretty recently. And actually, River's had 1 shot, because River is a child care provider right now. And I got the Johnson & Johnson as a mental health therapist. So I was in 1A, even though so many of us are vaccinated, they don't want to be here. So my dilemma is, I have not had a Seder without my father in my entire life. I have been with him for Passover every single year of my life. And I am really struggling with what that would be like if we just had the 4 of us in my immediate family have a Seder. But I don't think there's a way to, unless there's some magical way of figuring out how to not have the Zoom problem. And I don't know if there are any tips on there. I even offered to cut out all singing, because singing does not work on Zoom. But even so, that's what I'm struggling with, is there a way to even make this work at all?
Tracy, you want to share while you're here?
Sure. I think like everyone last year, we did a Zoom Seder, and we don't have any family in town, and it was really lovely to be able to kind of see them and do that. And I think we took some advice. I'm guessing that it was from Rabbi Joseph, to kind of focus on what everyone thought was kind of the big important moments, rather than try to replicate, kind of pursue feelings rather than kind of fealty to how it's always been done before. And I think that very wise advice came from you. If not, you should take the credit anyhow. Victory lap here, and I'm guessing we will do more or less the same. But I echo everyone who's expressed just being so tired, because I'm there too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll share that also. Even my Zoom Seder family Zoom Seder also sucked. It was terrible last year. And it was the same thing of like people not knowing what to do, how to do it. The best of my intentions of trying to direct how it was going to happen, failed. And I think that we've learned we're better with technology now, but it's still technology, and it's still hard. And I think, I first want to say, and what Tracy said, we'll say it again, is that creativity, and that Passover, I mean, all of our holidays lend themselves to creativity, but Passover in particular, because we have the story, but we get to create the ritual. We get to create how we want to share that story or how we want to connect. And I think the one thing that we learned last year, and that I've been hearing everybody talk about this year, is I'm going to show you tons of resources, because there's so much stuff online, and I'm going to show you, I'm really, really proud of the reform movement. And so I want to show you all this. And I know we have stuff on our website, like Marge talked about, but that doing the, sharing the screen with a Haggadah is everyone's done. And I would say that if you're going to try and do a Seder, like Seder meaning order and go through things with people that are not in your space, in your computer space, that you would have everyone print something out and hold it. That the looking at the screen is really difficult. You then don't get to see the faces in the same way you get to see the faces. And the feeling is so different from, I mean, it's funny, right? We've been like, who needs paper? You know, we're sharing everything. I love that I can share, you know, Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat. And like, I just love it. And it's like, actually, we want to hold things because we're not, you know, we're not there. And so we want to be able to be like, okay, I've got my paper and I'm following along. And so I thought it was really interesting that a lot of the feedback and the experts that are putting this together this year were like, okay, pick an online Haggadah, you know, pick what you want to use, but have everybody print it out in their space and know what's going to happen. And that way you can't share a screen, no problem. You know, you decide to like jump to this, great. We all have it and we're going to just jump to this, you know, and go from there. So I really think that, again, thinking about while we're using the technology to see each other, you know, what are ways in which we can still be physically present in our space. Interestingly, with technology, there's also talk about, could you know, using if you're going to use Zoom and using the video, but actually calling in on your phone and having the audio be different from the video, and that you can get sometimes you can get better pictures, you can get less delay. If you're using like, you know, you could have your iPad, laptop, whatever set up over here and it has whoever you need in the picture, but then you have like the phone that's calling in that's sort of like closer to the people who are talking or whatever, and that can sometimes help with how people are, again, delayed or talking over each other on Zoom in that way. There's also the question of whether, you know, people feel comfortable, again, now that there's more comfortable with technology, of doing things like, you know, being able to play games. Like, have any of you used Kahoot? Do you know what Kahoot is? Some of you have used Kahoot. And like, of saying to, you know, it depends on, I think when you're trying to figure out how to incorporate, I realize I didn't pull that. I'm going to put that up and then I'm going to share my screen. That if you have, you know, kids, and how are you trying to entertain, you know, different ages, that you can make, you know, quizzes and games. And let me just pull up 2 more things. Just remember. Okay. Let me share my screen. So, and what Tracy? Yes, Kahoot. I can show you what Kahoot looks like. Okay, so starting with the idea of different rituals, I wanted to this is just one example of a teaching. You know, that if you wanted to focus on, again, if you're thinking about what is the most important thing that you want to get out of this online experience? So maybe that is, I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second because I want to respond to, you know, thinking about like, you know, Libby saying, I've always had Seder with my father. What does that mean? You know, what does it mean to have Seder with your father? What does that equal? You know, I've always had Seder with my kids and my grandkids. You know, what does that mean? So it's sort of like, I tell the story all the time, but when I think back on what Shabbat meant to me as a child, Shabbat was dancing. And so, and nobody would know that. And, you know, like when I'd be like, oh, we always had Shabbat together. That was like the one time we paused in the week. We always had, and that meant Friday night, but that could mean all sorts of things, right? If somebody says, I've always had Shabbat, now what am I going to do? But if I drill down, to me, it meant dancing with my parents at the end of the meal, which is something totally silly and ridiculous, and was a ritual they started that followed us, all the days of our life. Although actually I haven't really done that as an adult, but so what does that mean for you when you think about Passover, and you close your eyes and you imagine those full tables? What is it? I mean, seriously, to think about that. Like, I think if in that moment, if you ask again, like right now, as I say that out loud, I think about that moment when we used to go to the Seder. His name was Dr. Marcus, and he would hide the afikomen. March Congress knows what I'm talking about. He would hide the afikomen underneath his plate. He would go to the bathroom. That was our cue to steal it. He'd come back. He would lift up his plate and he would go, I've been robbed. That's Passover to me, right? So like, it can't be everything. So if you can distill it to what are those emotional memories, what are those moments that are important for connection, then that's what you want to focus on. Because if there's anything that we've learned is we can't, like I say, we can't do everything. It is a disaster to say we're going to go through the whole Seder with various Zooms. I think the only way to get around the disaster is that you say one person is in charge. So, I decide, okay, I'm in charge of the whole Seder and you're all going to be on mute, which doesn't also sound that fun. I know what we tried to do is we tried to split it up, and different families were in charge of different parts, which I think is the next best thing. The problem is things get long and people get bored and chaos ensues. Now, there's a difference between disaster and chaos. And that's also, right? If you go into it and that emotional memory or what you're looking forward to is the chaos, and you know that that's okay. I know when I do Shabbat with my sister's family and my family, it's going to be chaos. We just know that going in. We know going in, everyone's going to be screaming, melting down, vying for attention, who's lighting candles, who's crying. And we'll do that for like 10 minutes. That was awesome. Goodbye. And we go in knowing that, right? So there are those pieces. So, I mean, I think those are the big things to think about over these next, less than 2 weeks now, which is so crazy. Less than 2 weeks. What do you want to get out of it? What is your goal? And what would make it Passover for you, recognizing it is not going to be what we really want it to be, right? That we're still in this place of it not being what we want it to be, but what can it be? Yeah, Virginia, were you?
Well, I have a question, because I remember last year, we have the family in LA with the kids that wanted nothing to do with any of it, and they were just being annoying and like what you just said, and their mom was screaming at them in the background, and it was like, get off already, So what you just said made me wonder if it would be rude. I guess I'm not going to be hosting it. My stepdaughter's husband is really going to host it, but whether it'd be rude to tell people, if first of all, assign reading parts in advance, so that they know when they're going to be reading, and they can maybe look at it ahead of time, whatever. But also be on mute unless you're reading. Is that like too dictatorial? Is that like
100,000 trillion%? And I would hope that if anybody's learned anything again this year, is that you were always on mute unless you were talking.
Okay.
And you know what you're doing ahead of time. You 100%. I mean, and the irony is, like last year, we tried to assign ahead of time, and like it still didn't work. It still didn't work.
No,
and
definitely.
so I commend that if you can get it to work, and how I would suggest shifting it is into moments. So not necessarily like the readings when we used to go around the table and, tell the story, but who wants to take this moment? And especially like if they're the kids, then it's like, you guys are going to get to do, how would you show us crossing of the sea to freedom? Can you come up with a dance, a movement, a song, an energy of like, and that's going to be your moment. And you guys are going to like work on this and practice this. And then all of a sudden, everyone's going to pay attention to you on the screen when you show us what crossing the sea and freedom look like. And there can be those moments of like, who can be in charge of some different pieces, but everything should be, we have to in this way of like planned out, what are we doing and how are we doing it? And I don't think it's rude at all to tell people they should be on mute. I mean, we're always.
Okay, and one more quick question.
Sure.
So what about the actual meal? Because I remember last year we did the Seder and it was abbreviated, but it was still Haggadah and we went through a lot of it. And then it was like, and now we have the Seder meal, right? And so then I can't remember exactly, but I think some of us stayed on and ate together and others just, disappeared. And that was weird because then after the meal, my stepdaughter's husband wanted to do the dessert part. He wanted to do the other part after the meal. And that's when you get the appraoch, I think, right? So then they were like, where is everybody? We didn't find the appraoch and whatever. So it kind of disintegrated when the meal started, is what I'm saying. And I wonder if that's unrealistic to think everybody's going to eat together.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you guys hung on like that. I would say,
Well,
even in the before times, most of the time you don't get back to the Seder after the meal. That's always the.
That's one of the things that last year we just did the whole service, including the end, and everybody left. I mean, it was gone. I only have, I don't pay for Zoom, so I only get 40 minutes. Okay, so you can't do that all in 40 minutes. So what I think we're going to do, since this is really an intimate Seder that I haven't done this with. It's just literally my family, my daughter, my son, their families, and me. And so we have the same mindset. We have the same memories. Is that we're going to do the Seder. We're going to go all the way through it. Then I will just send another immediate invitation, and when everybody's ready to start eating dinner, and then we'll have dinner.
Yeah.
So we'll have it both, because the dinner is when you can really talk about other things and find out what's going on, and it's casual, and the pressure is off. The service is over.
And even in that way, which I'm sure you've learned through these different things, you have to sort of call on people. You can't just have a happy hour and everyone's just talking over each other. Okay. I know when we've done our sort of like family reunions a couple times over the year, we sort of go through, we're all eating and hanging, but we say, okay, hey, Portland, give us the update, and then it's like, hey, New Jersey, what's going on? And you have to call on people because it's still really hard in the way. Libby?
Yeah, I haven't done that, so thank you for that information. Yeah. The other one is really a silly one. I have a silly question. I'm looking in my head. I'm looking at my daughter's table. It's small. How do you get all the screens and everything else on the table?
Well, you're only going to use one screen, and that's why I'm saying that you figure out how to set up a screen that gets people in the frame, and then you might use it, and then you might mute that screen, and then you're not going to connect that screen to audio, and then you're going to have your phone, on the table that you'll be able to audio, because to get everyone around the table.
I couldn't figure that out.
You have to have it further away.
Anybody else anybody else do something that worked? I mean, I know if you had a table for 8 and you only had 6 people, there would be a little room for a couple of people to have laptops up there or something, but.
Well, I wouldn't use more than one device because again, it just gets more complicated in that way. Libby, we're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of similar to tech. I mean, Virginia and Marge both. For me, the worst part is the dinner, because that's when the people are, and we talked about that. Like, what if we just usually my dad runs it. Like, what if I run it and everyone is on mute? But that's not the problem during the Seder when people will unmute. The problem is when you're eating and then it's a free for all. And then you have people in my family who are uncomfortable with any second of silence at all
Mm.
and just keep going. But I could also have like some real talk and just do that. And the other problem, but I think you just solved it, Rabbi, about being on mute is thinking, well, if I've got the laptop down at the end of the dining room table so it can see all of us, how are we going to be unmuting? But if the phone is what's connected to the audio, then we can just pass that around.
And how is the phone connected to the audio? So you're all Zooming really on your phone as well. Is that what you're saying?
I've never done it before, but I've definitely been on Zoom.
How do you do that, Rabbi?
So on your Zoom invitation,
Yeah.
there is a phone number. So when you get a Zoom, there's you can click through to the website and or
Right.
the app, and you've got your thing. But there's also a phone number that you can call in if you want to just,
Okay.
and you'll see a box on the screen that has like a little old school, get my virtual background, an old school phone like this, that's what it looks like. And it has your phone number at the bottom. And so that's how you'll go in by audio.
So Marge, when you do, but you want to connect on video, but I guess don't click the button that says connect to audio. Just ignore that button and then use your phone. Okay. And I really was trying to think, okay, what is the Seder for me? The Seder is who knows one.
Mm-hmm.
The Seder is going around the table and seeing who can actually say all of those things in just one breath, which is also, again, post dinner. I wonder if it would be terrible to like you eat dinner on your own and then you come back.
Well, yeah, but then the mother in me would want to clear the table and start the dishes. I don't know.
I think that might work for us. Like you're on your own for dinner, then you log back in.
You could also you could start the dinner and you could go around and people could do their check-ins. And then, okay, we'll see you in 15 minutes, and then let's just take a break and everyone can take a breath. And then you can come back on, and in 15 minutes and still have those different pieces together. You figure out, again, these are going to be the personal preferences of, again, how much chaos are you comfortable with?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? And is everybody, and I think that's just part of communicating it ahead of time too, of here are the goals of this experience together. And we know that not everything is going to work the way that we want it to, but here's what we want. And I think that if you're having more people, it'll be really interesting to ask what's really important about this Seder together. Is it important that we do everything? We make it through those 4 cups, Elijah and Miriam next year in Jerusalem. Is that the most important? Is it most important that we just get to see, the grandchild on the screen that we haven't seen in a year plus, and we want to have, a moment of fun of talking about things? Is it important to sing? How if singing is important, how are we going to do it? Singing is hugely important to my parents. And so, we tried last year, everybody was in charge of a song at the end. And my dad particularly likes the ridiculous parodies, exactly. The take me out to the ball game, Passover, the spoonful of sugar,
what's to do? It's hard to be a Jew. Just a spoon of haroset helps. Okay.
Yes. So we have the whole songbook. And, so everybody was in charge and we went from Zoom to Zoom singing the song that you were assigned. And that, that was great. That was enough. The Haggadah was a disaster last year. And we're not going to try that again because there's too many littles. And quite frankly, even the not littles, even the tweens are no, thank you. Right. I think if it was all adults, we would have a better shot. But having any semblance of children was like, ain't gonna work, you know? So we are gonna do, you know, pieces. We're also gonna play games, you know, and like figure out how to, you know, how to interact in that way of trying to keep them entertained. So I can show you one of the games that we've done that I stole it online, is a Passover Jeopardy game.
Ooh,
And let's see.
is there a link to that?
Yep, I'll give you a link to, I'll give you all the links. So it's like you can so 14, and then it's how many parts are there to the Seder? Extra credit if you know where they're listed and can, you know, tell them off. So you go through and somebody says, you know, symbols for 100. The mortar that our forefathers used to build in Egypt.
What is haroset?
Ta-da! So I actually played this 2 years ago. I changed some of the things. I thought this was so fun. I actually like wrote it all out and taped it up like on the window, and it was the best, right? It was like the kids, actually the adults super got into it too. So it was really great. But I think now you don't even need to go my, you know, analog route. You're using you can just actually use what's on the computer. It's not going. So games like that. I know, again, for kids, one of the Kahoot is used all over the place. That's what we were just talking about, Kahoot. You can set up, you can sign up for free and like set up questions, and then everyone can go, you're on your Zoom, but then they can go on their phone to Kahoot. They don't even need the app. You can get the app. They can go to Kahoot.com and put in the code that you give them, and you can do like hilarious also questions, quizzes, things like that. So I think using the technology is like a super big thing. So I had pulled this up, and just as an example of ways in which we are thinking about ways in which you could create conversation around moments. So this happens to be about haroset, and thinking about the purpose of haroset, and linking it to bitter herbs. And Rabbi Zupan in this piece asks, you know, could we add new ingredients to our haroset this year, representing sort of where we've come from? And then she asked these additional questions. Who have been your helpers this year? Share an example of a time when someone made this difficult year a little sweeter for you. Share a time when you made this difficult year a little sweeter for someone else. What efforts will you make to help others in the months to come? So I think this is a great example of something that you could send out to your people ahead of time to say, you know, this is going to be a conversation piece. So whether it's when we're doing the haroset and the maror, or when we're doing the 4 questions, you know, we're going to add questions to this. So it's, you know, prepared ahead of time of how can we get creative. This resource on the URJ website, or it's the reformjudaism.org website. I want to put this one on because this one's, so what this page I love is that they have collected all the information you could ever possibly need. So from choosing a Haggadah, where there's, you know, a bazillion, you go through from their page, and then you can click through to, you know, here's 8 different children's Haggadahs. Here's the Reform Movement has a brand new Haggadah, which actually is over here, called Mishkan HaSeder. and it looks like the Mishkan Tefillah that we use for Shabbat. It looks like Mishkan HaNefesh that we use on the high holidays, and now it's Mishkan Seder for Passover. Ta-da! Brand new, hot off the press.
Is it any good? Have you looked at it, Rabbi?
I've looked at it through some other, like through colleagues, and it looks just like the other Sidurim. So if you like Mishkan Tefillah, if you like Mishkan HaNefesh, you'll like it. If you don't like all that extra stuff, you'll hate it. So my grandmother hates it. I think it's great. So like you'll see here, it's got the order. So you'll have, just like, you know, from our prayer books, here's the order of all the different things. Then you have poetry that accompanies it. You have, you know, you have explanations then at the bottom, you know, giving us a little bit more from in the Talmud about the water is pure. And then on the other page, which is in here, you would have the actual blessing. So it is laid out exactly like the other books. And that's the whole idea, is we're trying to, you know, systematize this, that all of our prayer books, Seder, I mean, this is not because it's a Haggadah, but they all sort of have the same look, feel, information. It's going to have more than you ever need, but I always think that's so cool, because it's like, there's so much poetry, there's so much information. You'll be finding new stuff, you know, for years and years to come. But like literally just came out 2 weeks ago. Then they have setting the atmosphere. So you can go on here and you can, you know, you can use their playlist. They put together playlists of music. So if you wanted to have, you know, some music playing on your Zoom before you all get started, they have virtual backgrounds, but come on, you don't need their virtual backgrounds, because we have virtual, no, I can't reach it.
Right.
We have virtual backgrounds. Woo! Look at that. Tracy and Robin with their virtual backgrounds. We have such fun virtual backgrounds. Funny videos, you know, Shalom Sesame, Le Matzarabel. I can't even say it. How he's put matzo balls and matzah and mizrab together and blah, blah. You can make cocktails. Because you got to make, because 4 cups of wine are not enough. You should make cocktails too. And then giving you some fun, again, just like fun things to do for your Seder, Seder plates, more questions. And then they go through the parts of the Haggadah with ideas. So Kadesh, which is where we start. You can actually have the Kiddush here. And then here's a social justice reading, if you wanted to add for the cups, for the different cups of wine, including adding, you know, a 5th cup, and then discussion questions about that and our privilege and different things. Then Karpas, same thing with questions. The Magid, the telling of the story. I actually showed this video during Mishpacha Minyan because it was so funny. There's a video, we're not going to show it now, but like of kids telling the story, and it's hilarious because they like make parts up and it's so funny, and like everybody loved it, right? And so there's all sorts of like fun things, you know, if you want to lean into the technology, really cute songs about, you know, the story and how it happens. So again, if you wanted to like keep people's attention and say, here are the moments where we're going to share screen and show a video, we're going to share screen and play a game, you know, to sort of break up the time, I think is great. Lots of stuff on the 4 questions, because, you know, like the 4 questions and the 4 children, there's always so many things. So from sing-alongs and to 4 questions about racial justice, immigration reform, Mad Libs. This is always a crowd pleaser in my house, is to play with that. And then like we just looked, you know, with the Haroset and those 4 questions that were added for children. So many fun ones. So you can do fun ones from the animated to the Star Wars to more serious like climate change and racial justice with additional plagues. Again, so many additional pieces to this. Dainu. So it goes through all the pieces, maror, charosetz, korech. Then you've got your meal, finding the afikomen. Oh, this was actually funny, just to see like another funny, you know, like they did a video of the, I just want you to get a taste of the, like this dog of, you know, the dog is wearing a GoPro, you know, finding the afikomen. So, you know, funny, cute, very sweet. And even into the end of the Haggadah with Hallel and Nirtzah. So I really feel like they've put together such an amazing resource with like anything you could possibly want to add to your Seder. I was just like, yes, great job. I will send these links. I'm seeing if there's any other, again, there's tons of stuff on here. Our Passover. I think we have it on our website. Last year, this was called, what was this called last year? Like Passover 2020. What was it called last? It's through one table, but you know, they changed it. Now it's called herefor.com because I think last year it literally was like Passover 2020. And now that we're still doing this, but they have my favorite.
This is the Haggadah I'm using. The wandering is over.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually been using this Haggadah for years.
Yeah.
Like, for the last, like, whenever it came out 6 or 8 years ago, I literally printed it out, and this is the Haggadah that I still use because it's so user friendly. And I guess since 2015, I can show you what I love about this Haggadah is it just, again, hits the highlights.
Yeah, and it's slightly changed because I had an old edition in printing, and the one that's online is a little bit different, but not much. And you can edit it. That's the thing that's so great. You can make it shorter or longer. And
yeah, so you can see the graphics are really nice, and it's just super, super easy to use. Like it's like Kadesh, and you know, there's not like there are questions of things to talk about and some readings, but not overly, you know, not excessive. It's just like, you know, we go through it.
This is not anything like the one that we got from the website, from the temple website this year.
This is the original one from 2000.
Oh, this is the one at the website is much simpler than this.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's lots.
19 pages.
Yeah,
and it's lots of space.
This one again is from 2015, and they've updated it in all these ways, but there's lots of options here and easy to share, easy to print, which I find super up there too, super helpful. But really, like all the resources you could.
Is it possible, since a lot of these email addresses are extraordinarily long, is there any way we could get the Jeopardy link and some of the other ones that you gave us so that we could, you know, could email it to us or whatever? Because I'm afraid if you forget a dot or a dash or a period, you can't get to it.
Yeah, I can send. I've got a document with all the links in it, and we can email it to you, and just has all the links. If you want to like click on it so that you have it as an open tab in your own computer, you can do that now, and I will send you. I'll send you just a document with all the with all the links. Are there questions? I mean, this is a lot of information, and I know that it's also very much a personal journey, as much as this is our communal journey, but a personal journey of what are you hoping and how to make it work and all of that. But are there other things that people want to sort of throw out or talk through, or maybe get some ideas, things you wish that
I
would
found it very
talk about,
helpful.
address.
Very helpful. Now, can we print these out? You put them in chat, but can we print them out?
Print out the chat.
Yeah. I mean, here are the links, but that,
So Marge, click on the links right now, and then it'll open on your computer. And then you can go back to your computer. It'll just be an open tab. And if you want to email it to yourself, you can go up to the link and copy it and email it.
that's a pain in the butt.
We'll start. I'm going to send you a document that'll have all the links.
Okay, that would be great. I'd appreciate that.
Put them
No,
all
no,
up on the
this-
CBI
this
website too.
Just want to thank you. I've got to run because I've got a 1 o'clock appointment. But really, you've given me some hope, Rabbi. I was thinking there's just no way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
If I take it over and rule it with an iron fist, which I'm fond of doing, I think it could work.
Yep. And I really think that it's honestly at this point, I hope that it's between last year and this year, is people understand and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right. Like we understand that technology is great and unwieldy. And so like, I'm like, oh, somebody else wants to be in charge and like, tell me what to do. Great. Do it. Like take control, because we know that we can't all be in control like this.
Right.
So I think, yes, you make the decision.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Happy
you.
to get out.
Any other, Virginia, did you?
Yeah, well, no, I disappeared for a minute because I lost my internet. But anyway, that happens. A good example of why we should have our phones instead of just relying on the Zoom, right?
All of it. I mean, it's like, I've been so lucky, poo with my internet. And then like yesterday, in the middle of a meeting or something, and I was like, and I'm like in the best part of the house and like it's worked every other day. And you're just like, why is this happening now?
It happened. Sorry about that. Okay, well, thank you. That was really great.
Thanks. And we'll send, Tracy will put the links on the website, but we can also, I'll email. You can email.
Terrific. Thanks again. Bye, ladies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Happy Passover.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, bye-bye.
Soon. Oh, goodness.